Carl Baruti of Source Seeker Productions. We're here at the beginnings of the Raymond Alexander Foundation. This is where it starts, my father's foundation that will honor his memory. He recently passed. My father was a lifetime educator, and I'm developing a foundation to honor his work in the community as a lifetime educator. But here today, we are here to discuss the case of Miss Sandra Bland. Everybody knows about the case of Sandra Bland, what happened. It was a very tragic situation, but I'm here today with very vocal community leaders. Here I have Brother Gregory Anu Sam, Sister Jinaki Mohammed of the National Black United Front, and Brother Arthur and activist Brother Italo Bugat. We're here today to discuss that case. It's all over the world, all over social media and everything, so everybody has really seen about it, and it caused such a spur in my feelings that I felt I had to do something. I want to be involved in all protests and everything. But today, we are here to discuss it, and later we'll be watching some videos related to it. First, can I ask, what is the most tragic thing about this case? To me, a tragedy started in such a mundane, routine, everyday kind of thing, and it evolved to such a big thing. Not counting what happened in the jail, but I'm just talking about, why was she stopped in the first place? Why was she treated like that in the first place? Anybody have any comments?
Well, she was treated very unfairly. The officer, if everyone's seen the video, he had stopped a person prior to stopping Sandra.
That I didn't know.
Yes, he stopped someone prior to stopping Sandra. And with doing so, he let that person go on, just a warning, and it looked as if he was patrolling that particular area. I believe it might have been close to Prairie View University, A&M University. And when he finished with that person before Sandra Bland, he proceeded to turn his vehicle around as Sandra had turned in the opposite direction on that particular street. And he began to speed very, very fast. Now, when a cop car or any emergency vehicle, ambulance or whatnot, is speeding, most of the time, a responsible driver will get out of the way of an emergency vehicle when they see them speeding, because it looks as if they're in pursuit of something. I've seen cop cars speed all of the time without their lights on, and sometimes they'll approach a traffic light and turn their lights on just to ride past the traffic light. But he had sped real fast behind Sandra Bland as she proceeded forward, as the traffic light where she was at turned green. And with doing so, off of impulse, I'm sure, like any responsible driver, she veered off into the right lane to give that cop the right of way. Of course, his lights wasn't on at the time, but just it was an impulse. And I have done the same thing. I've been.
I think everybody's been
yes.
in a situation where we've been frustrated that
right.
he was nuisance stopped.
Right.
How you feel about that, Jinaki?
First, thank you, Baruti, for inviting me to be on the show.
Thank you.
And I'm here as the representative, as the national vice co-chair of Women's Affairs of National Black United Front. And as Brother Greg was saying earlier, there are several different videos that have been put out that have, not started at the stop, that at the first stop, that have started directly at the stop for Sandra. And Sandra actually says it on the video that I saw you speeding up behind me and I moved out the way and then you pulled me over. So it is an inclination, probably more so for Africans here in America, that when you see a cop speeding, speeding, you want to get out of the way. And so she was doing her due diligence. We actually, I've had the personal experience from being from out of state. I'm from Chicago also, and I know how it was when I moved to Texas. I also felt like just because I had out of state plates, as Sandra Bland's sister Sharon Cooper said, that she was being picked on, that because of that, they find a target because based on your plates, because there was nothing else. And if she was moving out of the way when you were speeding, then why would you pull me over? We take it as a hit to the African family in regards to her death.
Definitely.
Several women we have talked to, several women I have talked to, all feel as if they see themselves in Sandra. That could have easily been them. That could have easily been me. And so therefore this case takes, or should take, precedence and high priority. And it is a high profile case that should be investigated very thoroughly and with complete transparency.
Definitely, very much so. One thing I saw, he talked about, or it looked like he got upset with the police officer because of the way she was talking. I really listened to the way she was talking. It was not so bad. She was frustrated. And she was upset like anybody would. And he's supposed to be trained to deal with that. I don't even hear her curse or anything. She was upset. Hey, I don't like being stopped. I'm frustrated, what have you, she was saying. But nothing out of the ordinary that should have got him that upset.
But
what do you feel, brother?
I think a lot of Caucasian people get away with being able to talk to the police any way they feel like. So I think they just taking that angle to take, she had attitude. They taking that angle, so what I'm saying, where we could just
trying to give him some background,
giving her a bad name. But I think it's just an escalation of the situation, her getting pulled over and her untimely demise like that, because they've been killing black men all these years, then they killed the young Tamir Rice, and I think it's just an escalation of the situation. You know what I'm saying? So they can went from here to here. So now they're killing our women too. So now people are reacting more like, we gotta do something,
We gotta do something. I really feel that this case is different from the Michael Brown case. It's different from the Eric Garner case, and a lot of different cases, because this is a woman just going about her day. It's questions about Michael Brown, what was he doing? There's questions about Eric Garner, what was he doing? But this was a woman just going about her day. I think this may be the start of some type of movement. I mean, there's different movements going on, but this movement is very significant, and it's just like an everyday person just trying to do their job, and somebody comes in and messes with them. How do you feel about that?
Right. With the Sandra Bland case, situation, it's very sad because she did not have to die as a result of a traffic stop, and to piggyback on what Brother Italo had said concerning, the females are being harassed and even, killed. Also, it's not just the males. They had the female out in California with a cop on the side of the highway throwing.
There's so many examples.
Yes. There's so many countless cases and whatnot. But I think just with the Trayvon Martin case and so on and so forth, that launched off a movement, and I think that this particular case needs to piggyback on the others. We have in a few months, the 20-year anniversary of the Million Man March, and
called Justice or Else.
Justice or Else.
Yes.
I think it has really come to that point. People have been marching for decades, and we still at the same pinnacle, the same predicaments we've been in for decades. Enough is enough. When is it enough? So
that's very true.
So I think that the movement needs to continue. It needs to move forward. We can't just sweep this under the rug, this situation, and get back to our normal life. I think it needs to proceed forward.
I agree with that. Is there any question or any discussion about they saying that she committed suicide? I'm not sure about that. I don't care what the coroner said. I mean, that seems so unusual. If you heard her conversation with her friend, that did not sound like somebody that was suicidal. I just will not accept that until, well, I want to wait until the family's autopsy is finished, and if they're satisfied, then I'll be satisfied. But right now, I'm not satisfied. What do you say about that?
But Rudy, I want to address what you said earlier on that this case is different than Michael Brown, or this case is different than Eric Garner or any other case. We urge and compel people to look at the entire system. This case is it's part of the systemic issue of global white supremacy. So that means it's inclusive of Eric Garner. It's inclusive of Raquel Lord. It's inclusive of Michael Brown and all the other countless and senseless murders. It's also inclusive of David Williams, whose name has not been put across the media, who was another brother the day after Sandra Bland was dead by hanging in her jail cell. He was dead by hanging in his jail cell. The very next day after Sandra Bland, Kendra Chapman, who was 18 years old in Alabama, was dead in her jail cell, once again in sheriff custody, dead by hanging. So clearly we're talking about a systemic issue that's going on of global white supremacy. You were talking about earlier just how it is on black women being killed. It's not anything new, and it's more prevalent, and I can't remember the name right now, but our secretary from our In Love Kansas City chapter had just did some research, and it was a sister who the day before Eric Garner was also black, African American, around 20-something years old, who was dead in her jail cell. However, Michael Brown got more publicity than that case. So that Sandra Bland, unfortunately, is not the first woman to end up dead. Is not the first African in America to end up dead. And when we do a little bit more research as a whole, we take in every hit. It hits personally, whether it was a black boy, a black man, or a black woman. And as far as her suicidal attempt or her past suicidal and depression thoughts, the fact of the matter remains, she was in Waller County Sheriff custody, and if she had checked in and said that I was depressed, I had ever thought about committing myself, then it was their due diligence, it was their responsibility to ensure that they had a watch on her. And if they didn't, and this was actually the case, then the blood still lays on their hand.
Most definitely, most definitely. I'll say this, I believe the governor should publicly fire that police officer, as well as publicly tell the family that I want you all to come in and we're going to give you a check.
Which police officer? Are we talking about the people in the jail, people that do that arrested?
Well, first of all,
the people in jail need to be fired too.
I agree with that. I agree with that. What should happen now? Continue with that, please.
I'm just saying, the investigation they're doing, they saying the shower head was not tall enough for her to commit suicide. You know what I'm saying? She had just left a voicemail or a message with one of her friends saying, you know, bail me up. So they don't sound like somebody that's going to
Don't sound like it at all.
Kill herself. So
right.
From that point of view, you know, I don't think she did it, but, you know, they say wait until investigation over. I think she was killed. You know, he was hitting her in the head while she was getting arrested, I think.
We heard
they didn't put
the
video on. It was 2 cars there. It was another angle they could have came from with the dash cam.
They said that dash cam was from the Prairie View officer who, I want to say unfortunately, but I guess fortunately, her dash camera was full.
Oh, okay.
So there was no recording ability on that, which calls to who is this other Prairie View officer and why is her dash cam full? You know, it's no way for you to do your job. You should not be permitted to pull over a police officer, assist or aid or do anything that she called herself to do if your dash camera is full.
Has any of us been through Prairie View, Waller area? I mean, I went to Prairie View University. They do have some history, real history of racism. Prairie View is right next door to Waller County, and back and forth, there's been a whole lot of things happen over the years. I would say that this goes in line with that. More so, what should we do now about this? What activities, what organizations should we get involved with? What should we do today to make our feelings known? Anyway.
Just to go back to how she died in the jail. First of all, she supposedly, allegedly had strangled herself with, what was it, a trash bag?
Trash bag?
What was a plastic trash bag? Knowing her history, because she had to check off on certain, there was a checklist before she got into the jail cell. She let everybody know that she did have, before in the past, suicidal thoughts and whatnot. And even on the scene, she mentioned to the officer that she had epilepsy or whatnot, and the medication that, and he said his response was like, good. She said, okay, good, really? And all of that is on video.
Right.
So,
But even with the her saying that she, tried suicide in the past, there's some discrepancies with that, because on one part of it she said no, and another part it said yeah.
Okay.
I'm wondering, was there any alterations on that?
Yes.
Also on the video, the one where she's saying, hey, you slammed me in my head, that should have told him right there, okay, she may have had an injury. Why was she not taken to the doctor?
Right.
Immediately.
Right.
I don't understand that.
Baruti, you spoke earlier, or just a second ago, briefly about the history in Waller County. And upon our research, what we found is Elton Mathis was, last year, a pastor had sent him a text message, and the response to the text message from Elton was very racially thrived.
Who is Elton?
Elton Mathis is the DA of Waller
Okay,
County.
all right.
And DA Mathis finally admitted to the fact that, yes, I sent those text messages, and those statements were made by me in anger. I want to say him verbatim. Those statements were made by me in anger, but I stand behind them. This is the culture of Waller County.
And he's the DA.
He is the DA.
Okay.
And we're not even going to say that that's a foundational, that's an isolated situation, because the DA prior to him, Oliver Kinsman, resigned from Waller County in 2004 because of racial discrimination, where he was stopping Black, Africans, American students at Prairie View from trying to register to vote. The Department of Justice had to step in that instance, and after the Supreme Court made a ruling, Kinsman decided, I don't care. I'm still not going to let them vote. And the Department of Justice had to step in because of that, to overrule his policy that he had put in place. This goes to what's happening in Waller County. That's 70% white and 26% Black. This is the foundation of it. This is what they're built on. This is the culture. And it thrives from down from the top to the bottom. Alone in Sheriff's County, in the Waller County Sheriff's Office, we're talking about the Sheriff Glenn Smith, who was fired as police chief for racial discrimination, racial bias, and everything else that fits underneath that towards Africans in Waller County, and then only 2 years later to be hired as the sheriff. So clearly he set the requirements enough for him to make sheriff. There's no way you should get fired as police chief and become sheriff 2 years later.
There's a whole lot of history, a whole lot of, across the state, but in Waller County specifically, there's a whole lot of things that cause us to, consternation, cause us to say, something got to change. We got to do something. This case, I believe, is the beginning. Here in Texas, maybe across the country. And I was inspired to do something, to say something, and I hope that everyone who's really concerned about this will get involved and will do something to make some changes. What are some of the things you think we could do?
Well, we have to mobilize. And what we really need to do, besides unity talk and mobilizing, is that we need to be economically sound. We need to pull our resources together. They say what? The black dollar, what circulates one time in our community. In other communities, multiple times it circulates or whatnot. That's, first off, we need to do that. Because on the economic front, then everything else falls under that. Politics, anything else.
I agree with that. I agree with that. If we can, and you know, just like this is a start. This is us coming together to discuss it, to feel our pain and so forth. And then we could take that and add to it, shine our light a little brighter, put together something, some type of foundation from which to launch. And then we have to attack the political structure also. But of course, as you said, that comes from an economic foundation. Anybody else have a comment?
We're gonna have to defend ourselves, because from what I'm seeing is, it's you know, like she says, a systematic. You know, they killing us. You know what I'm saying? It's a systematic.
It's genocidal.
Yeah, I mean, it's something everybody watching on TV, everybody getting on social media and talking about. And it's like, what you gonna do? You know what I mean? It's only so much you can say, you know, before they at your door, you know, taking you out. Then we're gonna be like, rest in peace, brother. You know, that brother was standing strong.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it's got to be some kind of way we could prepare to defend ourselves. If that's with unification, everybody get together, all the different movements in Houston, you know, Shape, what's left of the Shrine, MBUF, or whatever, and just, you know, conglomerate how we can just talk about and build, you know, and have each other's backs, because if we don't watch each other, who will, you know what I mean?
Very true.
The police was
Go
watching
ahead, go ahead.
You said that this is this case is the beginning. Just last year, MBUF and other organizations went to Jasper, Texas, where they had killed, murdered, and maimed Alfred Wright. So Texas has a history,
Of course, yes, ma'am.
which we know. Remember
Yes.
the Alamo,
Yes,
of fighting for their land,
yes,
fighting to keep their slaves.
yes, yes.
And so I think what is so prevalent for Texans, though, particularly women, and I think across the country, is that this was a black woman that was hung.
Right,
And all
yes.
women are feeling this. And when the women get upset,
Yes.
because we talk about that women have the weight of the world, and women have the balance of the family. So when women get upset and enraged, then something has to be done for it. You asked, what can we do to organize around this issue? As a brother said, we need to mobilize. You know, we ask people if you are ready, if you do not know, if you want to be able to voice something. We welcome people to come out to the National Black United Front. We meet every single Monday at 7 p.m.
Where at?
At 2428 Southmore Boulevard. So that's
Okay.
off of 288 in Southmore, up the street from the Denny's.
Mm-hmm.
We've been on the front line for 36 years.
Yes, ma'am.
So unfortunately, this case is not something that's new. This case is unfortunately something that probably will happen again. And we have to be able to talk about what are some things that we need to do to prepare ourselves. And whether it's defense, and whether it's education, whether it's political and historical education, whether it's knowing what are your rights that you need to do when you get pulled over. We have Know Your Rights series at MBUF, which happens every second Monday, where one of our members, who is an attorney, comes out and he speaks to the community and the members about different topics. And just this past Monday, he talked about what happens, or what should you do when you get pulled over by the police. Unfortunately, we have to raise our children up on how to protocol and procedure on, as an African in America, on how you should deal with and address the police when they come to your car. That is completely different, I think, than what you were talking about, and how a Caucasian in America has to respond or will respond, and also how they're treated. In that video, we pay close attention also when he addressed the first car, he was on the driver's side. When he came to Sandra's car, he was on the passenger side. which gives them full view of the entire car. As in, I'm suspect from the beginning. I get to see what's going on with your right hand. I get to see your passenger seat. I also get full view of your back seat, which I have an obstructed view of that when I come to your driver's side. So we have to see the varying differences on how state troopers, the HPD, and the 200 other law enforcement that are here in Houston deal with Africans in America and also abroad.
I don't believe anybody can support how he was going about his business. I mean, I haven't really seen anybody say that he should be fired already, in my opinion. He should have been fired already for how he allowed himself to get upset. And, I mean, there's no reason, there's no rationale for that. So, it shouldn't even got to that point. It shouldn't even got to that point.
We shouldn't trust, at the National Black United Front, we don't trust the entire system. That includes the Texas State Troopers.
Sure.
That includes the FBI. That includes the Justice Department, because as of yet, they have not came through with anything in our regard for any case. I was just watching a video which the U.S. Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, put out, where she was asked from a news representative, well, what's going on with the investigation, the Department of Justice investigation for Eric Garner? Her response was, this is an open-ended and ongoing investigation. Eric Garner died 370 days ago.
Okay.
There's nothing that has came out of the investigation. What we must know when we call for the Department of Justice to come in for a case is they don't have to tell us anything. That case can be investigated for 40 years. It can be investigated for 4 years. They don't have to give us any information. So we got to caution and put a lot of caution on what we need, what we want to do in that investigation, what we want to call for. One of the things I saw Sharon Cooper, Sandra Bland's sister, ask is continue to tweet her name. Continue to do the hashtag say her name. Continue the hashtag Sandra Bland and Sandy Speaks and everything else. The family loves and appreciate that. And I think we also need to recognize and stand in solidarity with the family also. If that's what they're asking, if that's what's compelling them, that it made Sharon look and say, well, what about my life? Look how people are rallying across the nation for my family, for my sister, and what's happening. And that's what we need to do. And tomorrow, I'm not quite sure on the time, is Sandra's funeral in Chicago.
Okay.
So keep that in mind as we support the family and stand in solidarity with them.
Well, I'd like to say for all of us and everybody join in that we are very saddened about what happened, and we're going to find a way to use our voice, our energies, to get involved in some way to always remember and to have a symbol of our feelings as it relates to this case and how we can help to change things so it will not happen in a vacuum and something will be able to come out of it. We're going to keep trying. We're going to keep looking for things. We're going to try to build economic togetherness. We're going to try to build a defense front. We're going to try to build political ways. We're going to look for all opportunity to be able to be involved, to do something about this and make our voices known, because if we're silent, it continues. But if we put it out there, they have to be very careful what they do in front of the camera, what they do in front of people, because everybody today has cell phones. We want to make sure that we're out there and somebody knows what's going on. Somebody knows what we're trying to do, and if we are attacked, if we are messed with in any kind of way, somebody will know about it. That's what I want to make sure of.